What are we talking about?
Yeah, this is hysterically funny. So there's this really interesting guy who used to be, it's kind of funny. He started out extremely heavy, and through unintentional health reasons, he ended up losing a whole bunch of weight. But he decided he was not only fat, but he was gay. His name is Bevan Brandlandingham. How's that for a last name?
Okay.
13 letters, that one. Anyway, he said, I came out as all these different things at the same time, queer, fat, and femme. And he said, I decided to be liberated by it. So he's got a blog, and he's come up with a couple different types of weeks where he wants people just to figure out who they are and find a way to celebrate it. Okay. So yeah, he went back to Fat Sex Week. He said, how is he you got to read it. We're going to post it up on Great Northern Sexcast's Facebook page, but you got to read how he talks about fat sex is really queer sex, because if they decide to get into it. And his rationale is very interesting, and he blogs. So you've got to just check this out. And Queer Fat Femme is the name of the blog. We'll give you a link to it. But he talks about, initially he just wanted people to, get over themselves, but now it's turned into I think this is funny, an homage to the movie Magic Mike XXL.
Okay, this guy sounds like he's all over the place.
He is.
But if I pick through the words there, what I hear is that he believes that anything that isn't two supermodel type attractive heterosexual normal people having sex, anything outside of that is like queer, because people don't, it's not normal. You're supposed to be a certain way to have sex, and if you're not a certain way, that's why it's fat.
No.
Okay.
I think he's going bigger than that.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, is it any, like, the idea that whoever you are, you should be having sex?
Yes. And
that's what I'm saying.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's good. But it's a really actually long interview with this guy. And you're right, he is all over the place. But he's kind of who he's decided that he is sort of straddles many different, things too. So
very few people are one thing. Honestly.
Isn't that the truth? Oh my God.
There's a lot of different boxes and places and things that, each person goes into. When I leave here, I'll go do something else. When I do this, then, everyone, which one am I sliding into?
Yes. And if I've learned nothing else from this show, that is the truth. Yes. So the New York Post, they really are kind of famous for, just absolutely pissing off the internet, at least for a day or two, as often as they possibly can. That's like their goal, and God love them for it. But the latest one was a story called Why I Won't Date Hot Women Anymore.
Oh, I saw that
Did
one.
you? Did you? Did you read it?
I read the comments after someone had, through there, and I'm just on my friend's page that had done it, and then I read a part of it, and then I was on bad Wi-Fi, so I'm like, okay, the next page wouldn't load, and I'm like,
yeah,
I never got back to it.
Yeah, he's a private equity executive, which I guess is a coveted target if you're looking for, if you're in the marriage race. He said, I could have had anybody that I wanted, but I used to go on multiple dates a week with 20-something blonde models, but eventually realized, ready for the stereotype, wait for it, flighty, selfish, and vapid, full of themselves, couldn't carry a conversation, which is as bad of a stereotype as others are, really.
Obviously the title of it is a little bit of a clickbait, but if you're talking about trying to someone that you share something with versus just looks, well, duh. And if you're only dating folks that are 20, well, their brains aren't done yet, so you have no idea who they're going to turn into.
Yeah.
So I don't care whether or not you're, modeling for Victoria's Secret or whether you're not. If you're 20 years old, you don't have a lot to say. There are some folks that, but your brain's not done cooking. So you've
not
got
in your 20s,
not
no.
in your 20s. You've got the, So I saw some of the other stuff where they're like, and then they show a picture of it. I was like, how would you like to be the person if you dated this person? Where are you now? Are you dating him now? Does he consider you? Unattractive? There was, it was one of the clickiest, baitiest headlines, which is, I went for it.
Yeah.
I went for it.
Yeah.
And I was going through there, but I was a little fascinated. If you were to say, yeah, finally I want to be able to have a conversation about things that we are mutually interested in, well, that seems reasonable.
It does. Yeah.
If he wants to embarrass himself by saying, I was an asshole and now I'm not, fine.
Yeah. There's a Sex in the City episode about that, the Modelizer episode. Do you remember that one?
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Where the guy, and what I thought was so funny about, I thought the writing in that show, especially in the early years, was so good. But they showed the same group of friends, and the only component that changed over like a few times of replaying the same game was the model in the scene. It was hysterical, and everybody else around the table is like, gives the same answers to the same. It's hysterically funny. But it is. I mean, anybody that grows up, I think, comes into, not saying that you don't appreciate beauty anymore.
No. But there's, and I mean, if you're, there are models of all ages, if you're, or beauty of all ages. But I mean, and then honestly, if the person's doing that, they're cutting out someone that could possibly be, to limit yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just as idiotic.
Yeah. It's funny. I worked with this very briefly, this woman who does matchmaking, and she told this story, and she kind of considered it, I think, in her opinion, like one of her greatest matchmaking coups of all time. And it was this beautiful, handsome, successful, just, seriously, what do you call it? Most eligible bachelor kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, everyone's check marks. Check. Okay.
Yep. And, she matched him with an obese woman, like morbidly obese. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, I trust you. They ended up getting married and having 2 kids. And I guess they are happy, whatever. But she goes on and on and on about that. And I listen and I'm like, that's fine. And that's great if he truly loves her and everything's great. But I always had a skepticism about the matchmaking side of anything. And it's like, couldn't you guys have figured it out by yourselves? Like, take the introduction, but don't just push forward despite everything, all of your other sensibilities because someone else is telling you to or says it's a good idea. You know what I mean? I always just had a layer of skepticism with the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of people have met, because their friends set them up, or now on, before online, before they, you did something like that, or you thought, you really, like my cousin, but just because someone said that doesn't make it true. Right. But I mean,
and if they made it good on them, yeah. But
it just seems,
something's off about it to me, and I don't know if Yeah,
I mean, there's probably more there than if there's more details, it detracts from the story that good-looking guy married someone that is not considered attractive in this society.
Right.
It ruins the story if there's more to it.
Speaking of online dating, I had absolutely something that made me laugh all day after hearing it. Okay. On Friday morning, I'm driving to work, and one of my friends who has been very busy on Tinder lately, one of my gay male friends, and he said, check this out. I'm getting pinged at like 2:00 in the morning last night. And it's this guy who wants to hook up right now. And I said, what, did you have some sort of a beacon on that said you might be open to it? And he goes, well, if it was close enough and convenient enough, I might have. But he was like 30 miles away. Not only did he want him to come and get him a hand job, he wanted him to take him home back to his house. And I said, what? And he's like, yeah, that was what he was looking for right there in that moment. And I said, well,
So in other words, 2:00 in the morning, he wants person A wants person B to drive 30 miles
to give him a hand job.
And
then take him back to his own home.
And then, so he's not even at his house.
Right. He's somewhere.
So in other words, this was like an Uber hand job.
Well, that's what he said. He goes, this is Tinder, not Uber. Have a nice night.
I'm trying to, am I hearing
I know, right?
That right? Click, click.
I'm listening to this in the car. What? And then he goes, I just said this is Tinder, not Uber. Oh my God. And then the more I thought about it all day long, I'm like, well, there is something to be said for asking what you want.
Yeah. I mean, really, all folks can do is say no. I mean, honestly, maybe somebody said yes. Maybe they were going in that direction. I don't know. And they needed a hand job right then. I don't know. I mean, you just put it out there. Honestly, it would have been 2 consenting adults.
Well, a guy that just went up and tell your story quick.
Well, no, I mean, we didn't want to go up to complete strangers.
He didn't ask for a ride and a hand job, but something else.
No, but honestly, there was a gentleman that I knew years ago when we were all in our 20s, and he never played any games about wanting to get laid. So he would just ask women outright, do you want to have sex? And sometimes they say yes. Sometimes, most of the time they say no, but sometimes all he needed was one to say yes.
Right. And he was successful periodically.
He was actually quite successful because he just wasn't in any games. They knew exactly. It was just sex.
Yeah.
We're going to go. And this was 30 years ago.
That's awesome.
And nobody, he didn't, there were no games. He didn't, and it just, nobody, no one woke up in the morning going, oh, I have a boyfriend. No, it was just sex.
Yeah.
And he was honest about it, and it was perfectly reasonable.
Perfect. Perfect. This is kind of terrifying, but I've had a parallel experience, only not quite like this. But have you ever reached for one thing and like grabbed the wrong thing and put it on something? Like my sister once brushed her teeth with a face wash because it was in a similar looking tube and whatever. And it was an unpleasant end. I guarantee you this dude's experience was worse.
Okay.
They were having, this goes back to the cum rag. When they first started dating, this couple, she had gotten this lotion that heats. I'm sure there's plenty of that you have on hand.
Yeah, we don't sell as much of it anymore because honestly, we've got a couple of warming ones. There used to be a whole bunch of novelty ones, but we carry ones from like Wicked and stuff. They're just good
and safer ingredients and
all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
because this one irritated his penis. She was giving him a hand job, and so it got really weird. So she went into the bathroom to get a baby wipe to clean it off. Only she grabbed a Lysol wipe.
Oh
yeah.
Oh, not good. Not good. Not good.
Yeah. So burned off some skin. And he's like, well, it was extra clean, but really bad for a while. Can you imagine?
Way exfoliated.
Yeah.
No,
that's worse than exfoliated.
No. We've actually, this is, in the meeting today, we realized that some people they're not, it seems to be that they might not be paying attention, that they'll buy lube and they'll buy toy cleaner, and you want to keep these things separate.
Okay.
Because you don't accidentally want to grab the toy cleaner.
Oh, right.
And they're made by some of them are made by the same companies and this sort of stuff, and they've got the same
the
logos.
branding could
yes. And so you
you
want to keep that in a separate place. Don't keep it next to your lube. And that's your public service announcement for today. Because most, like I said, those do have antibiotics and not antibiotics, antibacterials in them and stuff like that. And this is not what you want on the body parts.
No.
And because I'm like, and I'm like, really? But so we decided that we're going to put them in a different part of the store and make a different sign for it so that it can't, folks, because a lot of folks come in and say, I was just told to buy some lube. And we're like, okay. And if they're not, or if they don't come in and ask and they just grab something off the shelf, we're like, okay, maybe, we're going to, they're on a separate shelf, but we're going to really separate it. We don't want anyone, we thought, well, maybe, if we hear about it, anecdotally, we just don't want it to, possibly be an issue.
Well, and you guys probably tell people to, hey, just FYI, be careful. This does not double as.
Yes, these are separate things, but there are still some folks that are, that if you've got them next to each other and the logos are the same, keep them separate.
Well, if you're just reaching and you're not really looking,
if you've
been there,
if you're
done that.
So we're like, so we're gonna make some different signs and make sure that they're in separate places. This really does tie into a conversation we just had this morning in the Tuesday meeting. It's just like, let's do that because folks are buying more toy cleaner and stuff like that because it is nice. It sprays on or it foams on and it's just nice and
it's easier than trying to wash it with something else that you have around your house, I think.
Yeah, because I'm not sure that if you've got if you've got like a glass toy with silicone lube and a couple different things, you want it just sometimes it's harder to get off, which is regular soap and water.
Sure.
A water-based lube on a silicone toy, because remember you don't put silicone and silicone together.
Yes.
Is easier to wash off.
Okay.
But it's still depending on where you're using it, how you're using it, you do want to wash these things after use.
For sure.
And and if you so if you want that extra layer of protection, but just keep them separate. And it'd be good. Mm-hmm.
In other public service announcement news, and this really follows up, sadly, to the guy who broke his penis in China, out of Malaysia, they're saying, hey, look, just be careful with ball-bearing metal cock rings. Do you agree? that they said that the synthetic ones, because I guess that there was a rash of people that got prescribed cock rings for ED